early on, it was I would do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I would
Mm,
post in different groups on Facebook on those days because a lot of times if you're spamming those groups, the
yeah.
admins or moderators will boot you out of there. And you got to check out the rules. A lot of times the rules in the groups will say no advertising, so you got to be diligent about that. But so early on, I was posting Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Later on, I would do it like once a week. And what worked well is I would post a picture of myself or a picture of recent work that we did. And I would say, hey, I'm Kobe. I own this business. This is the type of stuff we can help with. If, you need a hand with anything, give us a call. Super simple, but it worked well. And then, once we got the website up, we started getting leads from that. That was pretty consistent. And we didn't do a ton for really the next year or so. Outside of that and kind of the Facebook groups, I tried Nextdoor, didn't have any luck with Nextdoor in our
Mm.
area. I never did the Thumbtack or Angie's Leads. And that was based on, I would have jumped on that, but I was checking out the Handyman Journey Facebook group and everybody's like, stay away from Angie's List. So
Yeah.
thankful that I did. And then later on, kind of started expanding. BNI was a good tool. That was a good group that helped me get a lot of business to business relationships in the BNI group. Not so much marketing for the business, but I found my CPA in the BNI group, things like that. Um, the trucks we had lettering. We didn't do full wraps on the trucks. We did yard signs, which yard signs were pretty effective. We got the nice like metal real estate style signs with like the
Okay.
LED solar lights on them because when we were doing remodels,
Oh,
we'd be there for a month at a time sometimes, and so it wasn't a pain in the butt to move the signs around so much. It'd be expensive to get enough nice metal real estate signs for handyman work, jumping around as much as you do.
mm.
Um, so
Even still, just having one like nice one. Like
yeah,
if it were me, I'd get a nice big one and I would be like, "Hey, Mr. Customer, I'm going to be here a few hours. Can I keep this like in the front? It really helps my business and like
yeah,
keep. I'd love doing this work." And they
yeah.
most people are like, "Yeah, sure." Boom, and then just yank it out after every job. So anyway, just a thought there I wanted to share for inspiration for anyone.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we did. We'd always ask if we could stick it in their yard. And we would just take it out when we were done with the job. Because again, we'd be there for several weeks at a time, typically for the remodels. But I just got the biggest, nice metal frame, like I said, real estate signs, and then they had the solar LED lights. They light up nice at night, and they looked awesome.
That's sweet.
And so people are walking their dogs and they're walking past the sign. So just trying to be in front of people in as many ways and places as possible, so they get used to
Hmm.
seeing you. It kind of helps build that trust. And another tactic that worked was I printed out some door hangers, but we didn't go door to door and leave these door hangers on people's front doorsteps. It said something like, I could probably find one, but it said something like pardon the dust, we're working next door, here's our phone number, if we're in the way or something. And so again, we're there for a while, several weeks at a time. So I would have whoever the crew leader was would go the day we started the project, knock down the two doors to the left and right and said, hey, I'm Sam with Rust Belt Remodeling. We're working over at Joe's house. We're going to be here for a few weeks. If our trucks are in the way or, we're bothering you at all, give us a call. Here's our phone number and leave them with the thing. And so we got several calls from people like, oh, you just did Joe's thing. Can you come give us a quote on that?
Hmm.
Because, people don't feel like they're being sold. You're giving them your info. You're making good first impression.
Yep.
And you're just saying, hey, if we're in the way, let me know. So that was a pretty effective strategy, and it was super cheap to get a bunch of door hangers, and it would take, the crew leader 5 minutes, at the start of a project to go do that. We did every door direct mail. We only did that once, so we sent out, I think it was 1,500 postcards. So if people don't know what every door direct mail is, you get postcards printed out, and they print the prepaid stamps directly on the postcards. This is through
Who's
the U.S.
they?
Postal Service.
Okay.
The Postal Service doesn't print the cards. You have to go through some sort of service. So we had a local lady that helped us with it. So you get the cards printed out. It's prepaid postage from the post office. Then you go on their website and you pick what mail routes you want to deliver these postcards to. So you can hit it's not even by zip code necessarily. It's by, each mail truck gets a bin of your postcards and they put it in every single mailbox on that
Hmm.
mail route. So it's a good way to get a lot more targeted with postcards. You can be like, oh, this is a good neighborhood I really want to get into. I'm going to
So
hit
you
that.
actually see the route on when you go to set that up.
Yeah, yeah, on their
That's
website
great.
you see the map and you can click around and it shows the whole mail route on there. And you can search by demographic, average, house price. It's a pretty cool tool.
We are
So
going to create a little free training or something on that. So, if you're listening and want to know, give it a search or reach out to Handyman Marketing Pros. We'll see if we can get that drummed up here this next month or two. That'd be really powerful and helpful for everybody.
totally, totally. And we only did that once. I think we spent about 2 grand on it for like 1,500 postcards. I think the printing the postcards was a little bit more expensive than it should have been, in my case. But it's with the post office itself for the postage and for them to put them in every mailbox. It's like 27 cents per door, something like that.
Okay.
It's more
That
of a
could be
long
done
term.
definitely cheaper if someone wanted to, but still, you have like your ROI on it, right?
Yeah, yeah. So we landed $8,000 or $9,000 in revenue from those postcards. But it's a long-term play. Like you want to be
Yeah.
hitting the same mailboxes a few times throughout the year, that omnipresence marketing. So people leave the postcard laying around, they see it again. So doing a one-time thing probably wasn't as effective as it would have been if I would have hit those same houses,
Yep.
a couple times throughout the year. Um, and we did that in our last year in business. So frankly, we weren't around long enough to really see it through. But just that one time we did it, I mean, we landed eight, like I said, it was 8 or 9 thousand in sold projects, from that one drop. And the one client in particular said, man, we saw the home edition you were doing over on Smith Road. We saw your yard sign, and then we were at Kroger and saw the truck driving by, and so we got your postcard, and we're like, all right, we needed this stuff done. Let's
Yeah.
get so I thought that was good feedback they gave me.
Yeah, perfect example of like omnipresence. And also definitely anyone listening, anyone doing EDDM, everyday direct mail, I'd advise it quarterly or biannual, because
Yeah.
that return you got, even though it's positive, depending on margin and stuff, it was probably a little tight. That one time, but when it's done repeated, the ROI just continues to go up, and you just touch people more and more, and especially when you got good Google presence, good SEO, nice website, you got the signs around town, you got the trucks driving the lettered trucks. Hopefully, our listeners understand this omnipresence builds this trust inherently, this comfort of reaching out, and then that neighborhood touch too, as far as like there is a powerful neighborhood effect when someone's working on a neighbor's home. What landscaping, remodeling. There was like a land clear actually kind of nearby us, and like there's this instant like, ooh, they're working on my neighbor. This trust that's instantly built, and then when you add in all these other variables, it goes a long way for a really high ROI marketing strategy.
Yep, definitely.
What else were you guys doing? That worked great.
So the only other real thing we were doing was Facebook. I tried Meta ads briefly with not any real success. We were getting cheap leads, but they were very poor quality leads. And you say this all the time, Jason, but Facebook's an entertainment platform. So somebody's just scrolling, they come across your ad, then they might be like, "Oh yeah, we could get a quote for this or that," right? Which is a
Mm,
stark contrast from somebody who's searching handyman near me on Google because they
yeah.
need something done and they're looking for somebody, instead of you just interjecting yourself in their binge scrolling, right?
Yeah.
So didn't have a good luck with that. I ended up bringing on somebody full time to help us with content creation, posting on Facebook, and kind of answering the phones, helping with some of the back end admin stuff of the business. And she would follow us around and follow the crews around every day and record. She would just record,
Mm.
behind the scenes on the job sites, record, do the final walkthrough videos of these projects and that sort of thing. And we would put that up on on Facebook, and that was effective for building trust with potential clients, which is really important if you're doing larger remodel projects, right? If somebody's looking to get their kitchen remodeled for $50,000, they're going to do some research before they, sign on the dotted line, right? And so they're
Yeah,
looking at
absolutely.
your website, they're looking on,
Hmm.
BBB, they're looking at
Hmm.
reviews, and they're looking at Facebook. And we get a lot of feedback from people who are like, "Oh, we've been following you on Facebook for years. We love seeing your projects, and now we're ready for our kitchen." So it's a long-term play. Like if you start posting on Facebook, like your phone's not going to ring off the hook the next day. It's a trust building tool.
Hmm.
It's staying in front of the community. Um, wouldn't recommend. It depends on revenue and numbers. Every business is different, but bringing on somebody full time like I did to do social media and then
Yeah.
actually putting a bunch of real focus into it when you're like, we're not trying to build a following on YouTube. It's not a revenue stream. Another not wise decision I made, but
Hmm.
just putting a clip or a short video of you doing a walkthrough on a project or something once a week on Facebook. It's kind of low hanging fruit to build some of that trust. Um, and then the last thing that was pretty effective for our marketing was going to trade shows and home shows and that sort of thing, setting up a booth. We had one in my hometown, small town in Michigan, and it was a trade show. So we were the only contractor there. It was all types of businesses, real estate agents,
Hmm.
lawyers.
Hmm.
I mean, everybody. We were the only contractor there, and I was from the town. A lot of people recognize me, just from being around there, growing up there. We
Shoot,
did
you
a
had
ton,
teachers. You just graduated. You were just graduated a few years ago, young man.
and it was at the high school I graduated from in the
Okay.
gymnasium, but it was a big turnout. So again, it was a small town. The population of the town's like 35,000 people,
Mm,
but it seemed like everybody showed up to this trade show.
yeah.
So we got a ton of work from that. Um, we didn't have as much luck going to. It was still effective. Didn't have as much luck going to the home show in Toledo because there's everybody there is also a contractor. You're sitting in a booth directly next to your competition. Again, not saying it's not effective, but you got to put in a lot more work to win people over when there's 100 other booths in there that do the same thing that you do.
Yeah.
That was a lot of stuff, but that was pretty much the whole picture of what our marketing was.
Yeah, that's great stuff, man. I got a couple notes for Facebook ads. It's definitely for any smaller shop, it's best for brand awareness, maybe boosting a post for, that's personal. You got to use personal photos. It's got to look like it's part of someone's feed. Those are the most effective. Just doing some boost posts, don't overthink it. For, $50, $100 a month, to spend, that's good for brand awareness, really cheap eyeballs. But any like robust paid ads, Facebook program, you need a really good sales system because the lead volume is very high, but the lead quality is extremely low. The folks that are kind of most people that would see a remodeling contractor or a handyman business, if you will, and say, "Oh, yeah, I need some things done." And then they're going to see $125, $150 minimum or whatever. Or, oh, yeah, our low bathroom remodels are 12,000. It's like, oh, I thought it was going to be like three or five. Um, that's kind of a lot of the people that are going to be reaching out. And so it does require a lot of automation and systems to be able to profitably run. Super stoked. This year, we'll be launching our own Facebook ads program with Handyman Marketing Pros. So stoked to bring that, but it's really investing anything more than, 100, $200 a month for most markets that have premium pricing. That's a good variable. If you don't have premium pricing, it's probably going to be more effective. But if you're top of the market pricing, it's a really low quality leads. If you don't have a system to field those out, to filter those, then you're going to be spending a lot of time with folks that are never going to pay you a dime. So
Yep.
that's just my quick note on Facebook ads and what you're doing with the community groups. Very low hanging fruit for anyone listening. Um, a question about the home show, trade show. What is the difference there? What home show, trade show? I think of trade show, I think of like, you know, um, all the contract, like the Home Builders Association networking more for trades. So how is a trade show that families would go to and stuff, the ideal clients different from the home show?
Yeah, so the home show was excuse me, it was all contractors. So it was home builders, general contractors, handyman companies, tree trimmers, so people from the
Gotcha.
trades. And then, I'm sure that the terminology changes based on, the area
It's
too, but
yeah, it is going to be different by market for sure.
and so the trade show that we had a lot of success with, that was any type of business, but they had to be located in that town, which I was. I grew up there, so we were able to get in there. And so that's why there wasn't a ton of competition, because most of the contractors had their offices or whatever in Toledo, the bigger neighboring city. But it was real estate agents. There was a couple of pressure washing companies there. There's chiropractors, and basically anybody who owned a business in that town was there and set up a booth, and people just
Hmm.
walked around and shopped for free knickknacks and these and frisbees and stress balls, pens, all that kind of stuff. Everybody just kind of passes stuff out.
Yeah,
And what we did is I put together a toolbox. We went to Home Depot. We spent like $100. We put together a toolbox with some hand tools and things in it, and then we did a raffle. And so if people put their name into our CRM, they filled out a form, they'd get entered into the raffle, and then we retargeted them with our emails and that sort of thing. And some random person, we just drew a random name, and they won a cool
yeah.
toolbox full of tools. So that's what worked.
Cool. Yeah, it's probably going to vary by market. My encouragement for anyone listening is just go and see. It's something that I talked about in a recent coaching call I led was being an authentic member of your community and a promoter of your community is like this undercurrent of a successful business, a successful local home service. You're gonna be at these home trade shows because you're part of the community. If you might be at the farmers market, a lot of farmers market allow, now kind of not just food and produce, but like just a local town square for any business that wants to set up a little booth. You got to pay a little bit of money, but just go and be involved. Be in your chamber. Sponsor a little local, your kid's local team for T-ball or whatever it is. But this authentic membership of community is a common denominator of our successful clients that we've worked with over the years. So I can't help but mention that. And it goes beyond SEO, websites, online, Facebook ads, email marketing, all the fancy dancy stuff that one could do. The undercurrent of that is very, very simple, and it's just being an authentic member of your community that really just cares about folks and wants to be involved. So, um,
Yeah,
home and trade shows, just go and see what yours are going to be like because it's going to be different by market.
yeah,
All right, a few more big topics I want to hit on here. I know we've been chatting for a while. We're going to cover estimating and pricing separately. If that episode isn't live yet, do check that out. We're going to be digging into kind of pricing advice, how Kobe used to price, his kind of takeaways from that, and also estimating goes hand in hand with pricing because you have to profitably estimate jobs. That any time involved with a lead needs to be factored into your pricing. So I don't want to go. I'm so tempted. I love this stuff. Just so
good
tempted to
topic.
dive
It's
in. I'm just
important.
about to just belly flop right into it.